According to U.S. Census Bureau data, the share of midlife adults who had never been married rose from about 7% in 1970. By 2020, it was almost 30%. That is not a small lifestyle trend. That is a whole generation aging into a different kind of home. But you shut the front door, drop your keys in the same bowl. You put something on the TV just so the room has a little sound. And you make dinner for one without thinking twice. And here is what people get wrong. You are not crying into a frozen meal. You are not begging for someone to save you. You are not as lonely as they think. Over the next 8 minutes, you will understand why so many Gen X men became so good at living alone. You will understand why that strength can turn against them, and why the quiet house can feel like freedom on one day and like a warning light on another. And if a name already came to mind, one guy you have not called in years, do not push that away. Keep him in the room with us. Because the real question is not, why are you alone? The real question is, when did being hard to reach start feeling normal? You were not always like this. There was a time you were the kid who let himself in after school, the kid who made cereal for dinner, the kid who heard the phone ring and decided whether it was worth answering. You learned how to wait without being dramatic. You learned how to fix small problems without announcing them.
You learned how to be fine before anyone asked if you were fine. And that sounds useful because it was useful. A lot of your life probably works because of that skill. Then you grew up. You got a job, you paid bills. Maybe you dated. Maybe you married and it ended. Maybe you never married at all. But somewhere along the way, you became the man who could sit in a quiet room and not panic. Donald Winnicott, a British psychoanalyst and pediatrician, wrote about the capacity to be alone as a sign of emotional development. In plain language, a healthy person can be by himself without immediately needing someone else to regulate the room for him. Gen X did not learn that from a self-help book. Many learned it by walking into an empty house, putting down a backpack, and figuring out the rest of the day alone. That can build calm. It can build confidence. It can also build a habit of never reaching. And one day you did not pick up the phone, and the world did not end. It got quieter. But here's the part most people miss. What happens when a survival skill gets practiced so long that it starts calling itself your personality? There was the guy who never married because life kept moving. He was not making a statement. He was not rejecting the whole system. He was working, fixing things, helping people move, saying he would think about it later. Then later became normal. His apartment works exactly the way he likes. The chair is where he wants it. The fridge has the food he actually eats. Nobody moves his tools. Nobody asks why he watches the same old movie again. He tells himself he just likes his setup. But actually, his setup has become a small world where nothing asks him to adjust. The price is that another person starts to feel like an interruption, even when they are offering love. Then there is the divorced man. He still knows how to live with someone, but he may not know how to rebuild the life around the relationship once the relationship is gone. The group dinners stopped. The holiday invitations changed. The couple friends became her friends without anyone saying it out loud. He tells himself people are busy, but actually a whole social system disappeared, and he did not notice how much of it was being managed for him. The price is not just an empty side of the bed. The price is realizing your calendar was held together by someone else's hands. Then there is the widower. That is a different room entirely. He is not just alone in a house. He is alone in a house that still remembers another person. 2 coffee mugs, a drawer he does not open,
a side of the closet that stayed the same longer than he expected. He tells himself he is keeping things respectful, but actually, part of him is afraid that changing the room means admitting the old life is not coming back. The price is that grief can make a man loyal to a version of the house that hurts him every day. Stop. Before we go further, everything you have heard so far is not a compliment in pretty packaging. These are real adaptations of your psyche, because being self-contained can look impressive from the outside. But from the inside, it can become a system where nothing gets reported until it is already serious. Look at the small stuff. You go to a normal dinner, laugh at the right moments, drive home, and feel like you worked a shift. Because for them, it was just conversation. For you, it was tracking tone, timing jokes, measuring how much to say, making sure nobody needed too much. You tell yourself you are just tired, but actually you have been managing contact like a job. The price is that even good people can start to feel expensive. And then there is the friend you still call a friend, even though you have not spoken properly in years. No fight, no betrayal, no big ending. Just one unanswered message, then another busy week, then a birthday you notice too late. You tell yourself the friendship is still there, but actually some relationships do not die. They just lose signal. The price is that you can care about someone and still let the line go quiet for so long that calling feels awkward.
So how do you know whether your solitude is peace, or whether it has slowly become a room with no working phone? But here is where it gets complicated. A life alone does not always collapse. Most of the time, it narrows. That is the danger. Not disaster. Drift. You stop going somewhere because the weather is bad. Then you skip it again because you are tired. Then the thing is no longer part of your week. Dinner gets simpler. Sleep gets looser. The house gets quieter. And because nobody is there to say, this is not like you, the new version becomes normal. That is the strange thing about living alone. It gives you control, but it also removes witnesses. Nobody sees the slow changes. Nobody notices that you stopped mentioning names. Nobody asks why the good shirt has not left the closet. Nobody hears the sentence you almost say, and then swallow, because explaining it feels like too much work. So let us make the distance clean. Isolation is when the quiet starts choosing for you. Solitude is when you can choose the quiet and still reach for someone. That is the whole difference. This is not only for men who never married. It is not only for divorced men. It is not only for widowers. It is for anyone who built a life so self-sufficient that connection started feeling optional, then inconvenient, then strangely impossible. And here is what nobody tells you. The goal is not to become a different man. The goal is to put one working line back into the house. If you are watching this and wondering if something is wrong with you, hear me. You are not defective. You are not cold. You are not secretly failing at life. You are someone who learned how to keep going without making a lot of noise.
And that probably saved you more than once. The Harvard study of adult development has followed people's lives for more than 85 years, and the main finding is simple. Health and happiness are tied less to how impressive your life looks and more to the quality of your close relationships. Not the biggest circle, not the busiest calendar. The right people. The people who can still reach you. So if your circle got smaller but quieter, you are not doing this wrong. If your home feels peaceful, you do not need to apologize for that. If you like your routines, your space, your chair, your slow mornings, keep them. But do not confuse peace with a disconnected line. Send the text. Make the call. Ask the guy how he has been without turning it into a big emotional event. You do not need a perfect reason. You do not need a crisis. You do not need to explain the missing years in the first sentence. Just pick up. If this gave you the permission you did not know you needed, press the button below whose name I will not even say. You know which one. And write one word in the comments. What does your house feel like right now?